he'd relapsed, and it was the combination again of the drugs and the drink, and it was like, no, not again. I've got 10 minutes left, and I'm gonna spend it like this, you know?
How I feel, man. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
We do have some breaking news that just came into our newsroom that we have to bring to you. It's official there. British rock star Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. I want to put up this post that we have from the New York Post that they made on their X account, saying Black Sabbath legend Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, dead at the age of 76. So
what if a rock icon, written off by doctors and half forgotten by the touring circuit, quietly spent his last months storyboarding his own death like a final tour, beats, cues, callbacks, and all? What if every lyric choice, every Instagram caption, every carefully staged family milestone was less coincidence and more conscious composition? On July 5th, 2025, Ozzy Osbourne, Parkinson's-stricken, largely bedridden for 6 years, rolled onto the Villa Park stage in Birmingham for a show brazenly titled Back to the Beginning. 17 days later, on July 22nd, he was gone. And tucked between those dates is a pattern that looks eerily like direction. One last thank you, one last donation, one last photo, one last blessing. Fans saw a miracle performance. Insiders saw meticulous closure. Tonight, we're not just mourning a legend, we're dissecting a finale that feels less like fate and more like authorship. Villa Park felt alive in a way it hasn't since championship nights. Rain misted the floodlights, amplifying the glow off a sea of denim jackets and Sabbath tees.
These reports just started coming into our newsroom. I want to put up some video here as well for you, but we do ultimately know that the British rock star has died and he was, quote, surrounded by love. This is all according to his family.
40,000 people crushed toward the stage, and another 5.8 million watched a live stream, eyes glued to a throne parked center stage. A throne because Ozzy could no longer stand without agony. Critics had scoffed. He can't sing, he can't sit through a set, he can't even walk. But when Tony Iommi's first riff of War Pigs growled through the PA, Ozzy's voice answered with that unmistakable wail. Shaky at the edges, yes, but still cutting, still commanding. He tore through NIB, Iron Man, Paranoid. Each chorus delivered like a benediction. Each scream a goodbye, disguised as defiance. In the middle of it all, he leaned forward, clutching the mic with trembling hands and said, "You got no idea how I feel, man. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart." To the casual listener, it was gratitude. To those paying attention, it was closure. The branding wasn't accidental. Back to the Beginning wasn't just marketing nostalgia, it was thematic framing. The original Black Sabbath lineup, those 4 faces immortalized above his dressing room door, reunited as if to circle the narrative back to track 1.
The cause of death at this time is unclear, but the Osbourne family did release a statement to the British media saying that it is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning.
Opening acts weren't just big, they were symbolic. Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Alice in Chains, bands that owed him a spiritual debt, warming up the altar before the high priest performed his last rite. Everything was scaled for legacy, not longevity. For 6 years, Ozzy described himself as laid up, trapped in a routine he called Doomtown. Wake up, feel worse, count new betrayals from a body that no longer answered commands. Parkinson's didn't just shake his hands, it rattled his purpose. Sharon Osbourne saw the danger, a legend dissolving in slow motion. So she engineered a lifeline, a show that doctors flatly rejected as impossible. The logistics were insane. Custom seating rigs, on-stage medical staff, oxygen plans, contingency tracks preloaded in case his voice folded. But here's the twist. This wasn't a wife indulging a husband's whim. This was a general executing her partner's final campaign. Ozzy insisted, demanded, overruled pain and prudence. He wouldn't fade to black in a hospital bed. He'd dim the lights himself. And then the money, approximately $190 million, redirected to Birmingham Children's Hospital, Acorns Children's Hospice, and Cure Parkinson's. Skeptics called it PR varnish. But look closer. Ozzy's entire career was alchemy, turning shock into currency, then currency into spectacle. Here, he inverted the formula. Spectacle into currency, currency into salvation for strangers he'd never meet. That isn't polish, that's penance, or maybe just perspective. A man who once reveled in excess chose restraint and charity as his last public act.
Ozzy's family continues to say that he was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time.
Fast forward 17 days. The world wakes to a single image on Ozzy's Instagram, a grainy backstage shot of his Villa Park dressing room sign. His name at the top, underneath, the young feral faces of the original Sabbath. The caption, back to the beginning, the final show. No ellipses, no emoji, no sentimental speech, just a period at the end of a sentence that started in 1968. It wasn't a health update. It wasn't a farewell letter. It was a title card. Hours later, news breaks. Ozzy Osbourne is dead. Fans parse every verb tense like theologians decoding scripture. In a recent interview clip, he said, "I felt lucky to be alive, not I feel lucky." Past tense. Was that a slip or a deliberate linguistic breadcrumb for anyone willing to listen? The timing of that post, late, quiet, final, smells like scheduling software, not spontaneity. If true, it means Ozzy pressed publish on his own eulogy. If false, it still reads like a wink from beyond. Either way, it serves the narrative. Act completed. Curtain down.
So, of course, we know that Ozzy is most famous for heading up the group Black Sabbath that was founding iconic rock back in Birmingham, England, back in 1968. The band received numerous accolades over the years, including 2 Grammy Awards and a 2006.
From the outside, you saw random family photos, smiling grandkids, dinners with old friends. From the inside, sources say it was a checklist. 6 children, each given discrete time, grandchildren tucked under his arm, cameras rolling just long enough to freeze those moments in amber. Bandmates and buddies flown in under pretexts that conveniently doubled as farewells. Ozzy wasn't wandering through memories, he was manufacturing them. The most glaring example, Kelly Osbourne's engagement to Sid Wilson, popped backstage minutes after the final chord rang out. That's not serendipity, that's stage management. Ozzy knew he'd miss the wedding. He made sure he didn't miss the question. The photos from that night show him glowing, not just with post-show adrenaline, but with paternal satisfaction. In a life defined by chaos, he grabbed one last chance to script joy. And this wasn't overnight impulsivity. Months earlier, when Doomtown was swallowing him, Sharon reportedly recognized the spiral. She helped him swap passive decline for active design. Psychiatric evaluations over the years had branded Ozzy uncategorizable, a man whose impulses couldn't be boxed in by standard diagnoses. That same refusal to be defined by limits may have given him the clarity to choreograph mortality without melodrama.
Induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Among some of their most famous songs are War Pigs, Iron Man, Paranoid, Children of the Grave, and Sweet Leaf. So Black Sabbath, though, did announce earlier this month.
Let's linger on that $190 million. Rock history is littered with farewell tours that padded estates. Ozzy flipped that script. By funneling proceeds to pediatric care and Parkinson's research, he turned his goodbye into a resource pipeline for people battling the same monsters gnawing at him. Was it optics? Sure, optics were immaculate. But optics alone don't sign checks that big to causes this personal. This was a ledger cleanup. Decades of decadence offset by one massive tithe. A man who once defined excess decided his last public act would be restraint and relief. Even here, detail mattered. The chosen charities weren't random. They triangulated his identity. Hometown roots, Birmingham, affliction, Parkinson's, and compassion for children, perhaps a quiet nod to the grandkids he'd just spent final afternoons with. It's not just generosity, it's symbolism. The tributes came fast. Metallica, Elton John, Guns N' Roses. Each anecdote sweet, profane, or both. But beneath the flood of grief, something felt steady. The Osbourne family's statement wasn't the jagged, hurried patchwork we expect when death ambushes a household. It was polished, paced, grateful, specific.
That the original band members would be touring again this year, and it's unclear at this time how they're going to be navigating this shocking news of the death. So we do know that Hard Rock Loyalty and others, wherein some 40,000 fans did gather earlier this month.
Funeral arrangements, memorial plans, charitable directives, everything cued. No scramble, no confusion. As if the family had been given time, not just to plan logistics, but to rehearse letting go. Industry insiders whispered that even the memorial set list had Ozzy's fingerprints on it. If true, it means the man didn't just plan his last show, he planned your goodbye to him. Control freak? Maybe. Maestro? Definitely. Here's the paradox. We spent 5 decades calling Ozzy unpredictable. Bat-biting Ozzy, ATV crashing Ozzy, reality TV chaos Ozzy. Yet his final act reveals an artist obsessed with framing. No dramatic countdown, no farewell tour milked through 5 continents. One show, one post, one exit. He didn't fight death on stage with tabloid play-by-plays. He negotiated with it backstage, quietly, and signed on the dotted line. Consider the show's arc. Opener steeped in origin myth, a set list that read like a prayer book, donations set as penance, a blessing to the crowd. Thank you, God bless you all. That's good night. Then darkness. Not see you next time, not until we meet again. Good night. Period. The metal madman turned out to be a master of punctuation. So, what are we really looking at? A sick man lucky enough to squeeze one more miracle out of a failing body? Or a strategist who refused to let disease or randomness dictate his finale? Maybe both. Maybe the genius is in the blend, accepting mortality without surrendering authorship. He didn't try to outlive the inevitable, he tried to outwrite it. And what does that leave us? Songs that don't die, Crazy Train, Iron Man, riffs embedded in cultural DNA, a reality show that rewired how we think about rock star domesticity, but also a blueprint, proof that the end of a story doesn't have to be a fade-out, it can be an act of creation. Ozzy's voice will echo forever, but pay attention to what else endures. The mind that stayed sharp enough to steer the ship into harbor, and the heart that opened the cargo hold to others before it sank. Should we be inspired or intimidated? Is it comforting or chilling to realize you can plan your goodbye this tightly? Did Ozzy cheat chaos or just collaborate with it one last time? If death is the final stage, how many of us have the courage or the control to choose our lighting cue?